Have you ever looked back at a painful relationship and thought, how did I survive that? You didn't just survive. You healed, you grew, you rose higher than the pain they caused. And the most beautiful part? You may not even realize that you've already won. When someone with a narcissistic heart comes into your life, they don't just break your confidence. They shake your connection with yourself, your peace, and sometimes even your connection with Allah. But slowly, with faith, strength, and patience, you rise. Quietly, powerfully, without needing to shout or prove anything. In this video, we're going to explore 7 powerful signs that you've truly defeated the narcissist who once tried to control, manipulate, or break you. These are not just emotional changes. These are signs that your soul is healing, your heart is stronger, and most importantly, that Allah is guiding you back to your true self. So if you've ever doubted your strength, this video is for you. If you're still healing, this will give you hope. And if you've already moved on, this will remind you just how far you've come. Please like, comment, and don't forget to subscribe to Deen Xplorers for more spiritual and emotional reminders. 1. You no longer react to their drama. There was a time when just a single word from them could ruin your whole day. A single message, a strange look, or even their silence would shake your heart and fill your mind with questions. You used to overthink everything. Did I make them upset? Are they ignoring me on purpose? Why did they suddenly change their tone? You felt like you were walking on a rope that could break at any second. That's what happens when you're close to someone who always wants control. Someone who gets power from your reaction. Someone who feeds off your confusion. But now, that time is over. You don't react the way you used to. You don't feel the need to fix everything they break. And that change in you is not small. It's a powerful transformation. You may not realize it yet, but when your silence replaces panic and your calm response replaces anxiety, you have grown. You have taken a major step in healing, and most importantly, you have taken back the power they once had over your emotions. What used to trigger pain now triggers nothing. You sit quietly, observe, and protect your peace. That's not just maturity, it's spiritual strength. Because you are no longer letting someone else write the story of your emotions. You have stopped dancing to their tune. And that, my dear brother or sister, is not weakness. It is victory. A narcissist will always want you to be the one reacting. They want you to argue, to cry, to explain yourself again and again. They enjoy making you feel small, lost, and unsure. But now, your silence has become your shield. You no longer explain, beg, or defend yourself just to gain their fake love. You choose peace over the never-ending drama. You choose to let your silence speak louder than any words could. That silence tells them, you no longer control me. You no longer disturb my soul. And this silence is not empty. It is full of wisdom. It shows that your heart has turned away from the chaos of people and towards the peace of Allah. This shift in your behavior is not just a result of experience, it's a result of faith. You started putting your trust in Allah, not in someone who always caused you to question your worth. You began to understand that not every reaction deserves your energy. You realized that not every fire is your job to put out. You started recognizing your time, your energy, and your mental health as sacred. And that recognition is the first step to healing. When you no longer panic, it means you now trust the plan of Allah more than the approval of people. Your silence is not because you have nothing to say. It's because what you had to say no longer needs to be heard by someone who never listened. You are choosing growth, not attention. You are choosing peace, not revenge. And that means you've already won a battle that once felt impossible to win. So if you find yourself in a place where their drama no longer pulls you in, thank Allah. Because you didn't just grow stronger, you rose higher. You reached a level of emotional freedom where you understand that you are not responsible for other people's insecurities. You are responsible for your own peace. And your peace is now protected by your silence, guarded by your patience, and blessed by your trust in Allah. 2. You don't need their approval anymore. Once upon a time, you lived under the shadow of their opinions. You waited for their approval like it was a key to your happiness. You dressed to please them. You spoke to impress them. You made choices based on what they would think or say. And when they gave you praise, you felt like you mattered. But when they ignored you or criticized you, your world would crash. You felt small, invisible, and unworthy. That is the emotional prison a narcissist builds. And you didn't even realize you were inside it. But then something changed. Slowly, your heart stopped depending on them for validation. You no longer felt the need to prove yourself. You stopped begging to be seen. And what happened next was truly powerful. You started valuing yourself through the eyes of Allah, not through the eyes of someone who only loved you when it was convenient for them. That's when you stepped into freedom. That's when you truly defeated the emotional grip they had on you. You see, a narcissist thrives on power. They want to be the center of your world. They want you to think that you're only worthy when they say you are. But Islam teaches us something completely different. Islam teaches us that we were born with honor, dignity, and worth, not because of people's opinions, but because we are the servants of Allah. Your value does not go up or down based on someone's mood or attention. It is constant, because Allah Himself honored you when He created you. The moment you stop living for their approval, you start living for a greater purpose. You begin to ask, is Allah pleased with me? Instead of, are they happy with me? That shift alone changes everything. It brings you peace, it brings you power, and it brings you closer to your real self. The one that doesn't need filters, performances, or approval to feel whole. When a person finally walks away from seeking attention, their soul becomes light. You no longer wear emotional chains. You walk with dignity. And even if they try to pull you back with guilt, silence, or fake kindness, it doesn't affect you anymore, because your heart no longer beats for them. It beats for your faith, your peace, and your Lord. Think about how many times you tried to do your best, only to be told it wasn't enough. You smiled through your pain, thinking maybe today they'll treat you better. You gave, sacrificed, and tried again. And still, their praise was rare, and their criticism was loud. But look at you now. You've stopped chasing their approval. You've stopped waiting for them to see your worth. And that decision took courage. It was not weakness, it was strength, the kind that comes from deep healing. Now, your worth comes from the one who created you. You wake up and seek His approval first. You smile knowing He sees your efforts even when no one else does. You rest easy knowing He is just, He is fair, and He knows your heart better than anyone. So when you stopped needing their approval, you didn't just walk away. You elevated your soul. You chose the love of Allah over the temporary attention of people. You stopped performing for the world and started living in truth. And that's a sign that you have truly defeated the grip of the narcissist on your life. You no longer need their praise, because now you live for something far greater, the pleasure of your Creator. 3. You've stopped explaining yourself to them. There was a time when you felt the need to explain yourself over and over. Every time they misunderstood you, accused you, twisted your words, or gave you a cold look, your first instinct was to defend yourself. You would sit there trying to convince them, trying to clarify your intentions, trying to fix a situation they never really wanted to fix. It drained your energy. It confused your mind. And most of all, it broke your spirit. Because no matter how much you tried to explain, they acted like they didn't understand. Because deep down, they didn't want to understand. Narcissists are not interested in truth. They are interested in control. They make you feel guilty for things you never did. They shift blame when they are wrong. They act offended when you express your hurt. And each time you end up explaining again and again, hoping they will finally get it. But they never do. Because for them, it's not about truth. It's about keeping you in a place where you always feel like you owe them an explanation, a reason, a justification. But now, you've changed. Something inside you has become stronger. You've stopped explaining yourself. Not because you're hiding anything, but because you've realized the truth. People who want to misunderstand you will always find a way. And people who love you sincerely, they understand your silence more than others understand your words. So you stopped wasting your breath. You stopped handing your peace to someone who always turned it into confusion. This is not just a small step. This is a huge sign of emotional and spiritual growth. You now value your time, your words, and your energy. You only explain when it's truly needed, and you do it with clarity and not fear. That means you're no longer living to be understood by someone who only listens to judge. You are now living for the one who already knows what's in your heart. When you stop explaining yourself to a narcissist, you're not giving up. You're waking up. You're waking up to the fact that your worth doesn't need permission. Your intentions don't need to be defended in front of people who enjoy twisting them. You've realized that silence is not weakness, it's wisdom. And that wisdom has given you peace that explanations never did. This kind of strength doesn't come overnight. It comes after crying, after trying, after being misunderstood again and again. It comes after realizing that no explanation will ever satisfy someone who doesn't want to hear your truth. And once you reach that level of clarity, you become untouchable. Their words no longer shake you. Their silence no longer frightens you. Their blame no longer controls you. 4. You protect your peace over their presence. There was a point in your life when just having them around made you feel alive. Or so you thought. Their presence was something you craved. You thought you needed them to feel whole, to feel loved, to feel like you mattered. Even when they hurt you, you forgave them quickly. Even when they disrespected your boundaries, you welcomed them back. You feared their absence more than you feared the damage they caused. And deep down, that fear made you cling to something that was never meant to give you peace, only pain. But now, something has changed, something beautiful, something powerful. You no longer chase their presence. You no longer allow them to walk in and out of your life like they own your heart. You've chosen something greater. You've chosen peace. You've chosen your mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being over the false comfort of someone who only shows up when it benefits them. That's not selfish. That's not rude. That's strength. That's wisdom. And more importantly, that's healing. When you begin to value your peace, you become more selective about who gets access to your life. You no longer entertain those who disturb your soul just to feed their own ego. You no longer stay silent when your heart is being suffocated. You realize that it's better to sit alone with a calm heart than to be surrounded by chaos in the name of companionship. You understand that peace is not something to be found in people. It is something to be protected from people. This isn't just about cutting someone off. It's about building a life where peace is the guest of honor, where your space, your silence, your dua, your Quran, and your time are treated as treasures, not wasted on people who never saw your worth. And when that happens, it's not just a victory in this world. It's a step closer to the eternal peace Allah promises to those who remain patient, wise, and faithful. 5. You've found joy in simplicity again. There was a time when your life felt like a performance. You were constantly trying to meet someone else's expectations, walking on eggshells, second-guessing your every word, dressing a certain way, speaking in a certain tone, all just to keep the peace or earn approval. You couldn't even enjoy the small things in life anymore. A cup of tea didn't taste the same. A walk outside felt heavy. Even your smile didn't come from the heart. The constant stress, the mind games, the emotional pressure, it all made life complicated, even when nothing big was happening, and all of that just to keep one person happy. But now things are different. You've returned to yourself. You've stepped away from that chaos, and you've started to feel joy again, not from big, flashy things, but from the simple blessings you had forgotten. You feel peace in silence. You feel joy in a quiet prayer. You find beauty in a flower, a sunrise, a breeze. You've remembered what it's like to breathe without fear, to speak without watching every word, to exist without shrinking yourself for someone else's comfort. That is a huge victory. That's not a small change. That's a sign of deep healing. Narcissists have a way of stealing the beauty of the present moment. They want the spotlight so badly that they pull everyone around them into their storm. You're too focused on their moods, their reactions, their drama, that you forget to notice the beauty of Allah's blessings in your life. But the moment you walk away from their grip, something begins to bloom inside you. You start to notice life again. You start to feel again. And most of all, you start to appreciate again. You no longer feel like you need to impress anyone. You don't feel the pressure to perform anymore. You dress for comfort and confidence, not to avoid criticism. You laugh, not because someone else approves, but because your soul is light. You start making decisions for yourself. What you eat, what you listen to, where you go, who you talk to. And it all feels so peaceful, so free, so real. That's what simplicity does. It brings you back to your fitrah, your natural, pure self. So yes, finding joy in simplicity is a sign that you've defeated the emotional storm the narcissist brought into your life. You've come back to who you were before the noise, and this version of you, peaceful, content, grateful, is the version that was always meant to shine. Not loud, not flashy, not seeking attention, just glowing quietly from within. 6. You forgave them, but never allowed them back in. There comes a moment in every wounded heart's journey when you are faced with a hard decision. Do you forgive, or do you hold on to the pain? Do you let go, or do you stay tied to the memories of what they did? When someone has hurt you deeply, lied to you, manipulated you, used you, made you question your own worth, forgiveness doesn't come easily. And when that person is a narcissist, it becomes even harder because they never say sorry from the heart. They never truly admit the damage they've caused. But still, you chose the higher path, not because they deserved it, not because they apologized, but because your soul needed peace. You forgave them to free yourself from the chains of anger. You forgave them not to let them back in, but to let yourself move forward. That's not weakness, that's power, that's healing, that's victory. You didn't forgive to fix the relationship, you forgave to fix your heart. You see, forgiveness in Islam is one of the most powerful acts you can perform. It doesn't mean what they did was right. It doesn't mean you're okay with it. It means you're giving your pain to Allah. You're handing your hurt over to the one who sees everything, the one who knows the nights you cried, the times you stayed silent when you were being broken, and the strength it took to walk away. But here's the part many people don't understand. You can forgive someone completely and still never let them back into your life. You can make peace in your heart and still set strong boundaries. That doesn't mean you're being harsh. It means you've learned the difference between having a soft heart and keeping your life open to more harm. You've forgiven them. You've made dua that Allah deals with them in the best way. But you no longer give them access to your space, your energy, your trust. Why? Because you've learned. You've grown. You now protect what Allah has rebuilt in you, your peace, your stability, your faith. And that's one of the biggest signs that you've truly defeated the narcissist. Not with hate, not with shouting, but with grace, with silence, with boundaries, with peace. You've chosen your faith over your feelings. You've chosen healing over history. You've chosen Allah's pleasure over people's drama. 7. You've grown closer to Allah after they left. At first, it felt like your whole world had shattered. Their absence was loud. Their silence was heavy. You didn't think you could make it without them. Not because they brought peace into your life, but because they had become a routine, a presence you had gotten used to. They were like a storm that never left, yet you had grown so familiar with the chaos that you mistook it for life. But then, something happened. Something painful, yet beautiful. They left. Or maybe you walked away. Either way, the door closed. And in that silence, in that emptiness, you heard something clearer than ever before. The call of Allah. It wasn't loud, but it was steady. It was soft, but it touched the deepest corners of your heart. For the first time in a long time, you felt like you could breathe again, not just with your lungs, but with your soul. The narcissist wanted your full attention. They demanded your focus. They made you feel like nothing you did was ever enough. They drained your emotions. They consumed your time. And slowly, without even realizing it, your connection with Allah began to fade. You stopped praying with presence. You stopped reflecting. You were too tired, too anxious, too mentally drained. They didn't just hurt your heart. They pulled you away from the one who gave you that heart. So if you've grown closer to Allah after they left, then you haven't just defeated the narcissist. You've defeated the trap they placed around your soul. You've come back to life, real life. A life where Allah is at the center. A life where your worth is defined by His words, not theirs. You are no longer lost. You are found in prayer, in remembrance, in submission. And now, the journey ahead is no longer about running from pain. It's about walking toward Jannah with a peaceful heart, healed by the one who never leaves. If you saw yourself in these signs, then take a deep breath and smile, because you've already done something many people never find the courage to do. You didn't just walk away from a toxic person, you walked toward Allah. You didn't just lose someone, you found yourself. And through that pain, Allah was always there, guiding you back to peace, purpose, and purity. Healing after a narcissist isn't about revenge or proving them wrong. It's about becoming who you were always meant to be. Strong, peaceful, wise, and connected to your Creator. So don't look back with regret. Look ahead with gratitude. Because everything they tried to destroy, Allah has rebuilt in you, even stronger than before. May Allah keep your heart firm, protect you from every harm, and continue to guide you on the path of healing and light.